My name is Joey. This week I'm joined by Neil. Hello, you're listening to the Lamptey Show. My name is Joey. This week I'm joined by Neil. Neil! And Imogen.
Hi.
And Dom.
Hi there.
I can see Neil. Obviously, none of us can hear him. I'll let him use this time to fix his mic and come up with an answer for Moments of the Week. Dom or Imogen, have you got one to kick us off with?
Well, on Boxing Day, I took my dad to his first game of the season against Plymouth Argyle. We're walking to the game. We're doing our predictions, and I was like, "Dad, this is not going to be an easy win. I've seen us this season. You're lucky if it's a nervy 2-1, so don't get too excited." And then we scored basically our first 4 shots. It's all easy, and things were looking rosy. So that was pretty nice to be proven wrong, if only for that one game that things are a bit rosier than they otherwise seem.
Do you think it was really cosmically bizarre that we'd had to witness 2 or 3 games prior to the Plymouth game where they'd been so heavily dominated by the fact that we had conceded every shot that we'd had against us, and that Collins had been so poor, and then we came up against a team where the exact same thing happened but for us?
Yeah, it reminded me so much of the Rotherham game back in March, where it was a combination of we went ahead very early. We raced ahead very early. The opposition just completely lost heart, and it was a non-event from like the 15th minute onward.
Yeah, I think with the Plymouth game, it's quite there's so many games since that it's almost been eradicated. But actually the second half was, again, I keep thinking the Millwall game was a non-event, but the second half of the Plymouth game was one that you were just like, we could all just go home now, right? But there you go. Predictions, absolute waste of time as usual.
Yeah.
Imogen?
Mine was slightly less joyful than that, in that it got to about the 85th minute in the Norwich game, and I thought, for fuck's sake, the first time I haven't been to Norwich for ages, and they're actually going to bloody win. And the lad said, "Nah, you're all right, don't worry about it, we got this." And utterly capitulated only moments later. So thank God that I didn't waste my time going to Norwich. What a relief.
Let's get the $1 million question out of the way now with the Norwich game. Foul or no foul?
I think it was no foul.
Yeah, I think my gut reaction to it was I wanted Latibrodia to be stronger there.
Yeah.
I think the frustration with it is that the referee was basically giving that kind of foul as a foul throughout the rest of the game. So,
but he still had time. He
yeah,
had a lot of time to compose himself and sort himself out.
Yeah, but I think
it's a bit of a moot point.
Yeah, my preference is for defenders to be strong when they're that side of the ball from the striker. I'm not a fan of the I always call the Richard Duffy flop, which mainly come from watching us play against Richard Duffy, which is just the defender senses someone breathing on them, fall on the ball. I mean, if he'd fallen on the ball, that might have worked, but he did neither. He was both weak and feckless, I guess.
I guess the Cov version of that is the Richard Keogh flop, right? This is like, I think of him when he was with us as being absolutely game for throwing himself on the deck in his own box to try and win something back. And I always wondered how long it'd take before it blew up in his face, but he managed to get away with it all them times. But I'll take the Richard Duffy flop. Is beautiful. Neil, have we got you?
I don't know. Have
yeah.
Oh, good.
There we go.
Good. There we go.
Have you got a moment of the week for us?
Not the week, I'm afraid. I have a moment of December, which was the emergence of Ephraim Mason-Clark, suddenly becoming
Oh,
the
okay.
player that we had a feeling he might be. I thought he turned himself around.
I didn't have a feeling he might be. I'm really pleased to be wrong on this one. I had a feeling that he wouldn't be, and it's obviously still early days. But
What made you think that though? Is that based on what you'd seen before he came to us, or since he's been with us?
No, just largely from what he's done since he's been with us. But in the context of everything, more often than not, he's been played out of position, and he's had no consistent partner. He's had no consistent run of games. He's had nothing basically. And I think it's interesting with Lampard that there's a lot of people are crediting Lampard for his re-emergence, and it's not to say that he shouldn't be credited, but that he has just had a consistent run of games in the right position. I just thought he looked a bit one-paced for me and looked a little bit low output, but it turns out hopefully that he might just have been acclimatising to the level, and if that's the case, then absolutely fantastic. Much better, more learned men than me were insistent that he would come good, and I've got a £50 bet with our friend David Collins about his goal scoring output this season. That I am very well set to lose and very well happy to lose that bet.
What's the number?
If it's anything under 6, then he gives 50 quid to a charity of my choice. If it's anything over 9, he gets 50 quid for a charity of his choice. Anything in between is, we call it quits.
That's the most arbitrary bet I've ever heard in my life, but these numbers...
Well, so he said 10 or more, I said 5 or less.
Oh, right, so you got to split a difference, I see.
And then we were like, look, if he gets in the middle, then that's that.
I just think it's a belief thing for me. Like, it just seemed like eventually he became more and more confident just having the ball, whereas previously he didn't seem to want it. I expected this player, when we got him in, to be this really effective, desperate to get on the ball, desperate to run at people. And it just felt like maybe it was acclimatation. He just didn't seem to want the ball as much. And then during December, having got a couple of goals, he almost scored that outrageous bicycle kick. Well, he did, but it was offside. And he just he seems to have got through whatever it was that was causing him not to be the player we think he could be. And I'm quite excited by him. I don't really know where he's going to end up playing when you've got Haji Wright as well, but that's another problem.
Well, but this is the other interesting thing with him, and I guess is something that Robbins would have to answer towards, is EMC is exactly, he can do one thing, and that's not a criticism, but then why keep putting him on the right or in the middle or on the... I mean, he's anyone that I spoke to that saw him at Peterborough, and I'm probably looking at Dom, but I'm sure somebody else I had a conversation with that's where I said, do you think there's any chance that you could play him as a striker? And they were like, no, they tried that at Peterborough. He's not a striker. He won't do it. Like, it's not happening. He plays on the left and he does that job and he does it well. Leave him to get on with that job. And that, I guess he did anything other than that job while Robbins was here. I know that's probably because Wright was here, but then why buy him? Anyway, there you go. That's fine. Robbins is long since dead, so we don't need to worry about that. I'm going to wrap things up with my moment of the week. It's probably better than this, but this is more recent, and I can't remember past anything that happened last week. Is back to Lamptey. This is incredibly irrational and really unfair. But did anyone notice what a great time he was having with the opposition players all the way through the game?
What, chatting away?
Just at corners, just like laughing and joking.
It shouldn't be fun. No, stop smirking.
I don't know. But with Borja Sainz, I mean, he's such a wind-up merchant. Maybe that's the only way that you can deal with someone like that. He's such an arsehole. Honestly,
it was like their entire... Honest, and I really mean this, and I know that it is going to come across in the kind of cutting way that I intend it, but I do mean the nice version of it. I just would love to... I bet he's an absolute legend. I bet he's such a nice lad. He just seems like such a switched-on, nice person, and the very opposite of Carl McFadzean, which is what I want him to be. The only time ever, I know I've talked about this a few times, the only time ever that I ever saw Carl McFadzean having a good time was that game against Reading where him and Andy Carroll kicked shit out of each other and they just were like, "Oh, good game, mate." I don't need my centre back having palling it up with the opposition and then getting absolutely shoved out of the way when it really comes to it.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Because I don't mind him. I don't mind the centre back if you've done it and you've proven yourself. But we're in a period of time where we're desperately trying to be a strong defensive unit, proving that we can concentrate. So until you get to that point, just prove that you can concentrate and focus all the time.
And right, like if Nemanja Vidic, right, probably is having a great time left, right, and centre with everybody. You don't notice it because of all the strong defending that he does. That's what I mean. Is that
that trick? Yeah,
I remember Chris Coleman talking about, and one of the few things that he said that wasn't that was correct was about Elliot Ward needing to play with aggression, and he was right. You were like, yeah, you're right. When he plays with like a chip on his shoulder, he's much better. Like not thinking so much and whatever else. Lamptey is unfortunately coming under criticism from me because he is now what is a totem for the whole team at the moment of just spineless. I know that's probably unfair, and it's probably a bit of an emotional reaction, but how unfair? Imogen?
I wouldn't go as spineless, but I did actually think the defence looked a lot better.
I agree with that.
Admittedly, only for 90 minutes and not the extra time that was kind of crucial.
Yeah, they look good.
But I liked the three at the back a bit more than
I did.
They looked calmer. I did see quite a lot of praise for Kitching. I wouldn't have gone that far, but it did seem less cataclysmic than it has done in previous games. One game to go, yeah.
I thought the person that I felt really sorry for that deserved credit was Lampard. Was actually when that team came out, as I was like, that is horrid. But the like you say, the tactical switch worked, and we looked all right, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think it's going to sound really Sean Dyche, but it did work. Like for the performance that we were looking to give, we did everything we wanted to, which was I didn't think we started particularly well, but we got the goal that you'd want if you want to go ahead away from home, and then we defended with a genuine fight for most of that second half. Then I can't say anything about the equaliser. It was just, you can't warrant for somebody putting the ball in the top corner on the left foot from that. It's just a great goal. You can't do anything about that. We have a problem with.
Sorry, I was going to very quickly say, and Dom, you correct me on this. This guy's come out of nowhere, right? Like, this isn't a major player for Norwich this season. Like I think he's a good player, right? But he's not played a huge part this season, has he?
Yeah, basically. I mean, when he came in, he caught the eye for the first 2 or 3 games, but he hasn't been starting games regularly, and those were his first 2 goals.
And this is it.
So
what are you supposed to do about that? What are you supposed to do about that goal? And that's you can be frustrated and angry because, my God, you've just conceded. You've done all this work, then you concede. But I don't blame tactics or the players for that. I mean, I have more of an issue for the final goal simply for the Lamptey involvement. But even then, when I sit back, I'm like, right, I'm really pissed off because we've lost that game. But strategically, tactically, whatever, I think it was actually more of a performance that we should be giving than we have been. That was actually a fighting defensive performance. Everybody was in for it. It was one of those games where if you win it 1-0, you say, my God, that's defending. That's a brilliant away performance. And just because the last 4 minutes didn't go our way doesn't mean that the work that they put in isn't relevant. I think it's still relevant. And it's like you say, Lampard gets credit for that.
Dom, thoughts?
What that performance reminded me a lot of was the European Championship final in 2021 against Italy, where England started really well and they took the lead, and then you get to 45 minutes, you go, okay, this is great. It's a great position to be in. Let's get a second, and then it's done. And then you're like, okay, let's get to 60 minutes and let's at least have another shot or something. And then it's like, come on, can we just get to 90 minutes and don't concede? Where I think we just almost got a little bit. I think taking the lead almost made us stop doing what was good. I think we had a good period directly after taking the lead, but I think if you take that period out of the game, we were basically dominated for most of that match. And I also thought I thought Bassett up front had one of the worst like performances I've ever seen from a striker. He was woeful. I couldn't believe he was on for the amount of time he was on, where it was just like everything he did just didn't come off. He was offside all the time. He just pushed off the ball, gave it away. And that's like one of the things I think is quite bizarre. I don't understand why he is playing games regularly. He's not up to the standard at the moment.
Or why he's so wildly popular with the fans. Like,
Yeah.
Energy, isn't it? It's energy rather than specifics. It seems like I was thinking. I don't want to get onto him because he's still young and he's still learning. But I was thinking the other day, like I'm yet to see too much of him doing anything with the ball, like anything of kind of note. No. There's a hell of a lot of energy. There's a hell of a lot of running and getting in behind and all that sort of stuff. But I don't really know what he's like with the ball yet. I haven't really seen him do much.
But you remember when we signed him, CCFC Analysis, our good friend, posted that kind of one of the stats graphics that you get now, which is kind of like it's like a spiky thing like this, and it says this is how they compare to other strikers in Europe. And he'd got two particular metrics, and I think one of them was something like pace, and one of them was something like headed goal, just whatever they were, that were very strong, right? Mm. But I remember when we signed him, bringing this up and saying, the problem is that everything else is about the bottom percent in European strikers. So he's got these two where you're like, oh, yeah, I want my striker to do that. And then everything else was like, he can't do that at all. And then you're like, right, okay. And so what you're hoping is that, one, that he doesn't have to play as many games as he has this season, but he has. And then the flip side of that is you go, yeah, but if he keeps playing games, the experience will get him better. But it's not. He's getting worse. He's actually the more he plays, the worse he gets, as far as I can see. And I'll be honest with you, Dom, I hadn't really processed it until you said it on WhatsApp. And then I was like, yeah, you're right, actually. This is not been good at all. And I think who Imogen, was it you that talked about the energy that he brings? Is it's like his branding, I guess, is why people like him. I remember after the Sheffield United game saying, it's weird that he's this prick, but we haven't seen it before. No, haven't seen it after either. But he's got these little droplets of the first few games when Sims wasn't very good. And then when he came in and people were like, oh, he's like Gyökeres. That hasn't dissipated really, has it? Like people are still attached to that. Then the Sheffield United shithouse performance, people are still stuck on these little bits of fragments of performance as opposed to the massive amounts of 70-minute games where he's not done a great deal. And again, it's unfair to criticise a 19-year-old that shouldn't be playing as much as he is. But if we're talking about the functionality of the team, he's not helping at the minute, is he?
Well, I think the reference there is the energy. At least there is some use of, there is some value to it, like him being energetic and making them worried, the defense worried. There is some value there, but I guess that only gets you so far. The moment the ball gets to him, or actually goes over, but only gets onto it. If he's just going to do what he does every time, which is cross first time, even if he's off balance and even if he's on the touchline, that isn't smart play, and that's not useful. So I kind of thought the other day when you had him and Thomas Asante up front together, I thought, oh, maybe that might be the way to work it. He's the energy, and then you've got somebody up front alongside him doing some of the more functional stuff with the ball. I'm not entirely sure that even worked out, but I can't get too hard on him because he is 19. But yeah, I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for the detail.
And there's a separate problem, which is I don't think he's necessarily worked out what type of striker he's going to end up being, which again makes perfect sense for a 19-year-old. But at the moment, our three choices are either Sims, who I don't think wants a ball through to run onto, or we've got Bassett, who I think possibly does, and we've got Brandon Thomas Asante, who I'm not entirely sure what he wants. And I don't know what we're trying to do. So I don't really know whether we've got, I don't know whether we're prepared to try and play to the strengths of whoever is up front, which it doesn't really look like to me. Or I don't know whether one of them is best placed to do what we want to do. I sort of don't really get. We're back into sort of Robin's territory for me. Of kind of, I'm not really sure what our. There's these nominal ideas of possession or kind of build up or whatever, but I don't really know what the end game is. And maybe this is a failing on my part. Is that important, or do you just kind of aim to get up the pitch and then let it all happen?
Well, I'm sure there is more to it. I'm sure there is a plan, especially when the players who are supposed to be there are there. So I think when you've got Ridoni and Mason Clark and Sakamoto in form in their attacking positions, I imagine they form part of the function. Getting it out wide. We cross more than hardly any other team in the league. It's part of what we do, which is work the wings well. You've got Van Avak doing that when he does it well with Sakamoto. That functioned quite nicely. And then I guess it's the bit in the middle, but that's been kind of almost masked a little bit by the fact that the midfielders are the ones who are getting into the box. So you've got Ridoni and Eccles now seeming to get into the box a bit more, rather than the main striker being the end point, which I think that is the problem at the moment. You've got stuff happening around, but then you either want a really dominant striker finishing the move, like Sims should be, or if you are going slightly longer or in behind, you want somebody who's able to hold the ball up, which Bissett is yet to be able to do. So I don't know specifically what they're trying to do, but I think to a point I've got an idea that they're definitely trying to use the wings and they're definitely trying to create something, but I don't know what the end goal is, apart from scoring, obviously.
So I thought that the Norwich goal was what I imagine Lampard might consider to be a template goal, which was to be attacking down one side and have a player that is on the other side come much more central to be in the box when do you know what I mean? He talks about that a lot with Mason Clark, about saying to him, when the ball is out on the right, you should be on the back post ready to score, basically. And that was a nice bit of Lampardian work. even though if he's got to 24, he hasn't realised that that's the sort of position to take up for a player that scored 26 goals or whatever he did last season. But the two fullbacks creating and then scoring, you're like, yeah, you're right. For the sort of wide play but then it's wide play is one thing, but then the sort of ball that you put into the box for the person that's going to be on the end of it is a whole other thing. And I don't know whether there's a little bit of worry for me already about Lampard, which is this, which is a massive bit of confirmation bias on my part, which is this fear about a lot of modern managers, which is that they've read about tactics in a textbook and then have gone, yes, would you do that and then you score goals without actually really looking at your personnel?
I guess that's where the coaches are there for, though, aren't they? He's got these two high-profile coaches who have done work at top level. Surely, if they've read the same book, they've also done work from that book as well. Otherwise, that's a weird trio. I mean, it won't just be him, will it?
Well, no. Anyone got anything they want to talk about further on Norwich, particularly?
I think more on the strikers' point there. I agree with what you're saying. I'm also concerned that they don't seem to know how each other plays yet. And it seems to be quite late in the season for them not to anticipate what the other one is doing. When Bissett scored that first goal against Sheffield United, it seemed he was off celebrating in the corner and all the rest of the team were on the other side of the pitch celebrating together. Now, that could just be because he's an arsehole, which is, fair, but, they're happy to play with him. And maybe it's because he's got more energy than everyone else and he happened to be in the corner. But I found that a bit strange. It's very obvious that the team togetherness is not perhaps what it should be. And that may take a while before Lampard can bring that back again. But the interplay, say, between Sims and Bissett has been pretty average, to be kind. And there's no established partnership. You can't even see ways where even the midfield is able to link up with any striker, whoever it is that is playing up there. And it just feels all a bit, not even bereft of ideas or tactics. It's that they don't instinctively know what the other's going to do. And I feel like they should know that already. They've been playing long enough. We're deep into the season now.
What's odd though is that you see that, and I see that as well, and you're like, well, I don't really know what's happening here, and yet it's not like we're not scoring goals or we're not creating chances or we're not. Obviously we didn't do it against Norwich as much, but it is kind of functioning. Almost by mistake, because we are like the numbers. Just to fall on the numbers, those numbers suggest that we have loads of shots, and the numbers suggest that we're scoring plenty of goals, and it's not like we're not doing these things. And yet it's just, there's like a discomfort because you can't quite understand how it's kind of occurring at the moment, what the method is. There's no real kind of it. I don't want to say it's working because it doesn't feel like it's working, but the numbers suggest that it's at least not as bad as it could be. But I don't know, maybe we're just all in this sort of realm at the moment where we're very uncomfortable given the change that's happened and the shift, and we want to feel more comfortable with what we're seeing. And I think there's a huge conflict at the moment in terms of what the fans are seeing and how they're supposed to understand what's going on and what the players are doing. And certainly around the whole passing the ball forwards and building, all that sort of stuff. And I said the other day on Twitter that there's clearly like a disconnect, and there's valuable opinions about sort of slowness of build up and being quite ponderous, and I think that's valid. There are moments where we're like, hang on, you guys don't seem to really have any kind of urgency about you, but that shouldn't be as extreme where fans around me, and I always just reference fans around me because I've got nobody else, are losing their minds at the moment about the fact that we are not just keep doing what we're doing, which we've always done with Robbins as well, which is trying to build from the back, but we are now at a point where any backwards pass, not even before where it was just at a certain point, any backwards pass from minute one is crucified. And I'm just like, you've got Lampard saying, don't get bored of doing the right things. Keep doing the right things. You've got Milan Vanavat being the last man of defence, the ball bouncing high and he's about to get caught. He passes it back to the keeper and people start booing him. And you're like, how that must be really harmful to the players to have this real kind of conflict between what they're being told, how they're supposed to play, and then everybody on the sort of sides groaning at them every time they put the ball backwards ever. It's a bit baffling to me.
Yeah, I get that. But the problem is that, and I agree with you, it is frustrating when there are other people groaning constantly because sometimes you do just need to pass it around the back. But there isn't anyone in the team now that, well, since Hamer's gone really, that is willing to put in a threaded ball through either over the top of the midfield or use the midfield. There's just no connectivity.
But we lose it every time, and that was music.
I don't think we do. I don't think we're seeing that.
I was hyper aware of it because of what was going on around me. Because they were like, "Get it through, get it forward," and every time they did it, they lost it, and everybody was silent. It's like, well, they've just done exactly what you've told them to do. They've lost it. I'm not saying that's good either, but I think they are trying these things. But
but Hamer would do that. Like, I'm sorry to keep going back to Hamer, like it only because he was just so fucking good. But he would risk the balls. He would go in for and you had to be prepared that some of them wouldn't come off.
Yeah.
But it feels like they're not risking them enough, and because they're not risking them enough, we're not seeing enough going in that are working, and the ones that are going in are just sailing aimlessly by.
I guess because of the amount of possession we're having, whereas back then we just simply didn't have the same amount of possession. So it was like a volume thing where with him, he'd get the ball and he'd be trying stuff every time he got the ball because it was just his method of play. Whereas at the moment, we're talking about huge percentages, portions of the match is just us going from side to side, working out, trying to find and then we'll try something and then it won't come off. And then all you've had in the last 5 minutes is us going side to side, side to side, side to side, and then losing the ball. And I absolutely see why it's frustrating. So I guess my point isn't so much, I think it's valid about the ponderous side of stuff and not being assertive enough. I think the problem has come where it's got so extreme, the criticism of it is where sometimes it's okay to do that. Sometimes it's necessary. And as a plan, it's necessary to keep the ball. And as a plan, it's necessary not to be high risk. And I think the problem is, certainly from what I'm hearing, is everybody has a real problem with simply keeping the ball or even playing the sensible pass backwards. I mean, booing somebody for playing the right pass backwards is a problem for me. I remember people booing George Thomas. He'd just come on the pitch. It was his second game for the club. He was the last man in defence. He played it back to the keeper. And because it was 89th minute, he got booed. And I'm like, you're booing this 19-year-old for doing the exact right thing. I don't want him like Cruyffing it as last man. Do the right thing. And it's that conflict which is amusing me. Well, not amusing me. I'm furious about it. But it's that conflict which is... we didn't have it as much with Robbins. You've always got the forwards brigade. But right now we've got this never ever play backwards brigade.
Yeah,
which is wild.
But do you not think there was that there's a general thing at the minute that's like because we've been used to a relative level of success over the last few years, is that it's really great to see COV fans reverting to type as well.
Yeah,
Like,
there's a default setting.
Yeah. All of the old stuff that I haven't seen in ages.
Yeah.
Like the sort of like the vitriol over minute differences in argument on Twitter.
Definitely not used to it.
You absolute wanker. We just need to take more we just need to take more chances. You're just like, I don't know whether that's like, what's going on there. Like you say, people shouting forwards. You're like, this is. I'm like, it's not great. It's not great that we've still got 28,000 people in the stadium, but it's nice to start having this place feel like home again.
My other favourite is that the opposition of that is look, you've just got to get behind the lads. You've got to get behind them. Why?
Just
Why?
get behind them.
If they're shit, I will say so because I've paid a lot of money to say so and I will do it. That's my entitlement. I can do that. Doesn't mean I'm not still going to come. I'll still be there. But I am allowed to say if I think that Liam Kitching has played a shit pass.
Yeah. There's a very much a Michael Gove COV version of people are tired of analysis.
Lovely to hear Michael Gove. Lovely to hear from him today.
Anything that where you're like, well, you know, I thought actually it was a good performance against Norwich. There is a question over whether a team that has not been able to keep many clean sheets all season could have been relied upon to concede, like to not concede for 70 minutes and sit back on it. People are like, oh, shut up, just get behind them. Okay. I actually thought that was praise with a caveat, but no, apparently it was me stood on Lampard's door kicking it in and telling him to fuck off. Which ironically is exactly what you're doing. But I guess if if you're on social media, expect it to be social media. It's like I say, it's been heartwarming to see a regression to the mean of after years of Wembley visits and everything else. To your point, Neil, on that subject though, is if we're gonna have a look at, and I think nobody wants to. I don't even think anybody really wants to go back to the Plymouth game because despite the fact that it was a resounding 4-0 home win, it was almost as boring as the Millwall game. So I don't think going back and looking at every game is going to be tremendously helpful. But I do think it'd be nice just to have a sort of overall discussion about where we think we're at. And I'll kick it off just because I've got the biggest gob and I'm already talking. To your point around, like, I haven't got a problem necessarily with how we're building up. So when I'm saying about like the way that we're planning to score goals, I don't think we've got massive deficiencies. I realistically think whether they're signed in January or whatever it is, I think you're probably a better striker and one, ideally two leaders, whatever version of that could look like. They could be 20 and be a leader, or they could be a 32-year-old, massive unit. I don't really care. It's someone who's going to be... I think Hamer was a really strong leader, for example. Yeah. Like, I just think you could do with a really... Like, peak Sims last season would do for me. I don't know where he's playing now. But do you know what I mean? Just a reliable goal scorer, because to your point, we're making more than enough chances to win games. And I don't think we've really got a problem with chance creation per se. What I mean by that is, I think Rudoni can make chances. I think Mason Clark can make chances. When Wright comes back, he can make chances. Like there are enough avenues for chance. So it's not like, well, we're making chances, but only because we've got Adulterapt killing it game in, game out. Like there's enough quality over the pitch that we're creating enough chances to win games.
Yeah.
And the defence has been wretched. I don't think they're all wretched defenders. I just think it's a failure of teamness.
Personality,
in the same way as that 3 Carl McFadzeans would have been absolutely disgusting playing together. Like, you just need some balance. I just don't think that, like, I quite like that about Dier. I know that I'm having a go at him for the way that he is, but in a different system, is that if you chose to have, as a dumb example, 2 big, like, wild nutters either side of him, and him going through the middle, sort of directing things and using the ball. I think he could be quite functional. But the problem is that where he gets shoved off the ball in that game is because he's not that guy. Like, he's just not.
Yeah.
People are saying that it's not a foul, but it looks like it is because he's just not strong enough. But then he shouldn't be there. And then you've got Bobby Thomas looking poorer than he is. And I know that I've got a bit of a problem with Kitchen, but I bet Kitchen in a decent defence would look all right, or certainly a lot better than he looks this season. And so I don't think we're that far away. But the problem is that the small bits of far away that we are actually horrid.
They're quite important as well, aren't they? Like, but do you not feel like we've kind of almost sleepwalked into this personnel issue? Like, over the course of 12 months, we've not just on the pitch, but everybody who you might consider like a leader or somebody who represented the culture that has been successful at the club has basically gone. Whether that's the two like managers like Vivash and Robbins, then you've got Kelly, Godden, Fadzen, all going. Everybody who might represent standards or even walking them onto the pitch. Kelly hardly played last season, but he was always the guy making sure that he was walking them onto the pitch every single game for training, making sure that they represented what they needed to do. And across, whether it's training, coaching, all that sort of stuff, there must have been a level of kind of leadership and sort of authority there. And over the course of 12 months, you lose those individuals, and then you're left with other individuals who I think maybe in isolation or, like you say, alongside somebody else would be perfectly fine players. Like, I really like Bobby Thomas. I think he's a great player. I don't think he's the leader of a defence. I don't think he's got that, at the moment, that capability. And it's like at the beginning of the season, I was banging the drum about why haven't we brought in another defender? Why have we just kept the exactly same defence as last season? Because that was one area where I felt we were lacking. And I do think there's a huge personnel issue, and you can't put your finger on it because there's no tactical reason. You can just say, well, actually, a few different people in the organisation who are making people work to the right levels is quite important. And when you've lost it all, I think you end up in the position where we're at the moment, where this feels new. Compare this team to last season, the club is just, we're different now. And I wasn't on the last podcast that you did, so I didn't have a real rant about what happened with Robbins and Vivash, but I'm really annoyed with the idea that an argument between two full-grown men has basically dismantled this really functional thing. Now,
Doug says.
Well, okay. Well, let's suggest that is what's happening, though. But I mean, I don't understand why we think he would lie. Why? Well, why would he come out in public and just say this outright brazen lie? Like,
why not? Who's gonna counter that?
The people who he's lied about.
Why? Robbins wouldn't. Robbins wants a new job. He wants to get.
No, I don't believe in like conspiracies and stuff like that. In that sort of realm.
I think it's a conspiracy. I think it's there's a reason why he would lie, and that's one of the reasons.
The King sacked Vivash rather than Robbins saying, "I don't want to."
No, I'm just saying that there are other reasons. There are alternative
to the information that I have at the moment. Then, if that's what's happened, where these two no longer get on, it does frustrate me that they had a functional relationship, and then whatever. These people can't work together because of. I mean, it's just annoying to me that based on this sort of argument between two full-grown adults, everything then crumbles for no good. To me, it seems like no good reason. It doesn't feel like there's a good enough reason that you would then go from what should be the pinnacle, which is reaching the FA Cup semi-final. The pinnacle of what you do as a management team, to 6 months later. Nobody no longer being in the building, getting sacked and suddenly rebuilding again. It really rankles with me. It doesn't seem like it should have happened. So I can't say it did happen because obviously I wasn't in the room. All I can go with obviously the information, but I don't understand. I'm not in the realm of just presuming that somebody's lying. I don't know. Maybe that's just me being naive.
Dom, what do you think about in terms of leaders on the pitch? Where do you think the leadership is coming from, if at all?
I suppose one of the things now is that obviously Ben Sheaf is our captain, and I think we've seen sort of throughout the season that he's just a bit more of a passive figure as a captain. And I think just generally what we've seen from Sheaf this season feels like a bit of a plateauing. where he is used to having like key figures around him who can take the mantle of games, and he's not quite that character to drive things forward. I thought the Millwall game in particular kind of showed where Sheaf is as a player right now, where he had a lot of the ball in that game, a lot of opportunities to try and force things to happen, and he made a lot of just really poor decisions throughout that game. So yeah, I think we really could do with someone who can come in and help steer Sheaf, because we know it's not a lack of talent with Sheaf, but it's just having that personality to try and shape games to your will and trying to make your mark on matches that I don't think it's quite there. It's kind of made him a bit of an odd choice for captain, but I don't know who else you'd pick in this team either.
Yeah, he had, I mean, there was that clip, wasn't there, of him doing some training with, I don't know whether they were academy players or school kids, I can't remember, but he was obviously really good at that and he was really engaging with them. But I agree, I don't think he has the personality on the pitch to be just a bit of a tyrant, really, making sure that everyone is in their positions. He doesn't, that doesn't appear to be the character that he has when he's out there. And I think maybe that's, Joey, what you were talking about with needing some kind of a brute on the pitch to drag everyone back.
It also makes it sound like an implicit criticism when you say that someone isn't a leader. But if everyone in life was a leader, then everything would be shit. You need everybody to play the roles that you need them to play. And so it's not to do him down. And it's also not to say that he shouldn't be captain, because captain is an almost ceremonial role, realistically. So he could still be the club captain. I imagine he does a very good job as club captain, because I don't think you'd give it to him unless he was. But how often was McFadzean ever captain? It wasn't all, it was maybe 20% of the time tops. And it would have been because whoever was the club captain, which is usually Kelly, wouldn't have been there. But it didn't stop him being a leader on the pitch.
Yeah.
Some people are it's just different roles for different people. The other thing for Sheaf in terms of taking on roles is you feel a bit sorry for Sheaf about the fact that possibly because he's captain and because of the loss of Hamer, he's trying to do lots and lots and lots of different things. Whereas I just really want Sheaf to just sit back. I just wanted to just not cross the halfway line and just break up attacks. Whereas he's spending an awful lot of time on the edge of the opposition's box. And I just don't think that's where he's suited to be. And I appreciate the fact that he's trying it, because his partner, more often than not, is someone that's less suited. I really like Eccles, and I think he's been very good this season for what I'd have expected him to be. But that he's not a Lampard-esque attacking midfielder either, or he's not like a big creator. So Sheaf, I feel weirdly is doing a very good leadership job this season, in the sense that he's sort of had to throw himself on the grenade. He's injured. I don't think he's fully out of that injury, is he? I think that's still a situation for him, but he's playing through it. He's trying to do more jobs than he's really capable of doing. And it's all to his own expense, where people are saying he looks like shit. And he does. He's not been good enough, has he, recently? But actually, it's probably because he's trying to do more than he should do, which is a shame, really, because you don't deserve to be put in that position in front of 30,000 people every week and however many people are watching on telly, because it makes you look shitter than you are for a reason that's possibly not very fair for a number of different reasons. But going back to the thing of where we've started from, the whole transfer window this summer was based on the idea that we had the strength in depth that we wouldn't find ourselves in this position. And yet, weirdly, we find ourselves more in this position now than we did last season when we were more in that position. How?
Yeah, it's almost like the type of person, the type of player is more important than the volume of them. Like, it just seems like if you lose certain things in certain places, that's harder to compensate for than simply saying, right, we're going to buy a couple more strikers and make sure we've got two players in every position. Because if you lose the personality, you don't resolve that by simply replacing that with another person. Like, the personality is the thing that keeps everybody functional. I think we definitely seem to be missing that.
Oh yeah, hands down. I can't remember how much we've talked about this on here, but I have got sort of not obsessed, but they're really interested in listening to them Under the Kosh podcasts. And it's a shame because the presenters, hosts are so poor, but that their guests are so continuously interesting. What's interesting is if you listen to enough of them is the themes that come out throughout them about particular individuals and sort of collective opinions forming an idea of what that person's like, but more about what it takes to operate well as an individual within a football club.
Yeah, 100%.
And the thing that really, really rings out, the more that you listen to and the more people that you hear talking, is just how much more important vibes are than tactics, for example. So, like, you need tactics, obviously, and they're important, but if you've got good energy in the group and the right leaders in the right place, and actually, these are all most these players aren't 19. This squad, this squad should be like peak age that you'd want for your squad. They're all like 26, 27, right? They've played football for ages. They know how to do it. This is why I was joking before about Lampard saying to Ephraim Mason-Clark, yeah, what I want you to do is, like, all right, I scored 27 goals last season, or 26 or whatever it was. I know what to do, yeah? So, like, it's, yeah, and it just seems like that bit of those bits, those elements, leadership, like steel.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we've missed. The only counterpoint to that is that there's also all of the more practical stuff that's missing that everyone knew was missing, which was like a left back, a central midfielder. That when we were off-signing 8 wide players in the summer, people were like, this would be great, because when we add the central midfielder to this, we could have a really good squad, and then they didn't add the central midfielder to it. And now we're here and we're going, we haven't got a central midfielder. If anyone could have possibly known about it.
Has anybody got any, it's kind of on topic, thoughts on Brad Collins and where he goes from here as a goalkeeper at this football club? I don't really like him.
He leaves as soon as possible, but again, giving him credit, he's not a bad keeper, is he? We've seen him be a really good keeper. Sometimes just things get too bad and you've just got to go there, right?
But it's like what you say, isn't it? It could be more than just attributes. It's also personality and how you like, we've been watching him since March now look terrified on the football pitch. So yeah, it's one of those where maybe a whole new environment for him fixes all those issues, but it must be really difficult, especially for a keeper to suddenly change that sort of thing, which is all right in your head.
Do you know what I feel really sorry for at the minute that I was thinking about earlier when I was watching Match of the Day is Aaron Ramsdale. So Aaron Ramsdale was at Middlesbrough or Sunderland. Where would it?
Sheffield United, wasn't he?
Yeah. Sheffield United. Sorry, you're right.
And Bournemouth.
Yeah. Then if you think about his last 3 or 4 year career trajectory, is then he got his dream move to Arsenal, or let's call it his dream move for the sake of this hypothesis, and then goes to Arsenal, does really well at Arsenal to start off with, and everyone's behind him, and he's got all this Jordan Pickford energy that everyone really likes and whatever. Then there's like not really a wobble, but like a minor wobble, and they signed David Raya to ostensibly compete with him. Then if you fast forward a few years down the line, he goes to Southampton because he wants to be first choice. And now he's having the shittest time that anyone can ever. But actually, is he any better or worse a keeper than he was at Sheffield United? I would probably say not. It's all circumstance and context, isn't it? And yet, if you think about his sort of relative value now compared to when he was at Sheffield United, it must be absolutely non-existent. And I just feel sorry for him. And I wonder whether there's a bit of that with Brad Collins, that just like maybe just life gets on top of you. Maybe just the circumstances of being at a club where it seems in slight disarray. Some people can just deal with that better than others. And if you can't, then maybe you just become a hologram that lets in every single shot that you do. We don't know, do we?
Yeah, and it's a shame for him just because circumstances couldn't have been much better for him last season, semi-final, in the playoffs, everything going for you, and then you just become that hologram. You become that problem. And it must be so much harder for a goalkeeper than anybody else, because if you're a player on the pitch and the ball goes through under your foot, happens to every player on the pitch all the time. You're a goalkeeper, you're letting in the goal. And it like the difference between perfection that's required from a keeper and everybody else on the pitch is so much harder. And then when you've got the mental issues of somebody who doesn't look that comfortable or confident, or he isn't that vibrant goalkeeper that you expect, personality wise. You just wonder, how do you resolve that? How do you resolve an issue like Brad Collins when you probably don't have the innate personality to be that the unthinking goalkeeper who just does everything naturally?
Well, so Imogen, what would you do?
Sorry, I'd actually completely zoned out. Do about what?
Brad
Collins. What would I do about Brad Collins?
If you were Brad or you were the club, what
he has to move on. There's no. It's like the Simon Moore situation. You can't continue here. You need a fresh start, whether it's on loan or a permanent move. And I would suggest it's probably best to have a permanent move. The way that Dovin has played since he's come back in, I think has been really impressive. He's been commanding. You could hear him. You can see the effect that he's having on the defence, shoring them up a bit. Even if he gets injured, provided Wilson's back, I think Wilson would be an ample backup for him. So there doesn't really seem to be a way back for Collins this season, at least, barring horrendous injuries. So why not go out on loan where it's better for everyone if we can't get rid of him permanently? And again, like you say, it's not because he's a bad keeper, but if that confidence is gone, and maybe it's not just a confidence thing, maybe it's a personality clash with one of the coaches. I don't know, if you feel like you're not being favoured, whatever it is, I don't know. But it's clearly not working, so better for everyone that he moves on.
Did you, sorry, just very quickly, I kind of in and out at the very beginning, did you mention the Brad Collins regen for Plymouth? Has that been picked up? The guy? Yeah. I
mean, so the question for me is that you missed was, I can't think of a situation ever where you've had such a specific problem that has then been mirrored by an opposition team.
Yeah, he even looked like him, which was just just insane. I was like, have they loaned him for the match? I don't know what was going on.
The other thing that was crazy for me was that I get there's this bit of presumably there's a bit of like the old England brigade at half time have kind of gone, don't worry about it, we won't embarrass you too much, even though you're definitely going to lose your job in a week or two, between Lampard and Rooney. But that even if Lampard says to me in the dressing room, listen, let's take it easy on these guys in the second half, right? I'm still shooting from range.
Yeah.
Because after 2-0 I was like, every shot we hit at this guy is going in. Let it rain. And then, I'd still be like, let's take it easy.
Yeah.
But if I'm still gonna be like, I'm pegging this from 30 yards, so I know it's going.
It's a cross, honest. Yeah.
Okay, recently we heard from Lewis from Proud Sky Blues. On that episode, I urged people to get in touch if they have got their own supporters clubs that they wanted to push. And I'm glad to say that we've got a brief excerpt with Kevin from Scotland Sky Blues Supporters Club. So here's that now. And I'm delighted to say that we are joined this week by Kevin Unit. Kevin Unit? That'll do. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. We had Lewis on recently talking about the work that he's done with Proud Sky Blues, and we put a call out there for anybody that wanted to promote their own supporters group. Yeah. So Kevin, do you want to talk to us about why you're joining us today?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a tough act to follow, those guys. I'm not sure I've got quite as important or profound as those. But yeah, so our Scottish supporters group's been going since about 2023. So we've got over 35 members now. Bizarrely, almost half of us have got season tickets all the way from Scotland. So
really?
You're talking, for me personally, 11-hour round trip to home games. I mean, I suppose our nearest games are like Sunderland, Preston, Middlesbrough, but they're still, 6-hour round trips and stuff. And obviously with some of the stuff that's been served up to us this season, it's been harder and harder to justify the time away doing those big journeys. But yeah, we've got a great, thriving group together now. And yeah, sort of wanted to come on about this St Mirren game idea that we've had.
So before you go into that, are you travelling together, or like a summer you travelling?
Well,
together?
We haven't quite got it. Some people fly down, others drive back in the same day, which is absolutely crazy. Obviously, most of us have got family somewhere in Cov, somewhere near Cov, stay over, head back the next day. It's a mixed bag, really, but we're trying to get the whole minibus thing together and stuff. Yeah, we all come by various manner of means.
Because even then, Scotland's still big, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's not like you can all just.
Yeah, it is quite big. Yeah, so we've got people as way up north beyond Inverness and like Aberdeenshire, which is quite high up, and a big pocket of Cov fans around Edinburgh. That's quite popular. Some on more to the west coast, like myself, and a few in Glasgow and stuff. So. Yeah, we'll say we found probably over 40, and we just wonder how many more are out there, really. And we have get-togethers and stuff, and get together at games and stuff, and so it's good fun, really. So it was kind of an idea I had. I didn't realise I thought I might be the only one up here that was a Cov fan, really, a few years ago, and put the word out, and we've got together and got going, really, and we. A thriving WhatsApp community and other get-togethers in person and stuff. So we, I must apologise for, as I said before this, that I've got a sort of dull, monotone voice that doesn't lend itself well to promoting ourselves.
Oh,
so I have to apologise for that.
It was more the kind of the self-deprecation of the thriving WhatsApp community. I thought it was,
whenever people join us, we say like you will need to mute this chat quite quickly because it just the chat is incessant. But it's good.
That's really, really nice then. So is this largely just people that have sort of come together as a sort of ragtag group just because of geography and you having set this up?
Yeah, most people up there. Works took them up there. Work brought me up here, and so some people's children are now Cov fans. You know, they're born up here, but they've took on the mantle from the dad who's from there. So we've got all sorts, really. So a lot of it's the work that's brought us up here, and as I say, they watch the games on Sky or whatever, or the other means, or the Fire Stick type means, and. Or we get down to games as often as we can. So for me, it was just finding others with this commentary affliction nearby. Really.
Did you mention you'd got an idea? Did you say the St Mirren idea?
Yes, I was hoping you'd be all over this, but we're pushing this again. So I don't know how much you're aware, but Coventry won the FA Cup in 1987. I'm not sure if you're aware of that or not.
Yes, I read that recently. Yeah.
Did it? Yeah. St Mirren also won it in 1987, so another surprise winner. And they came together. I think this was a time post Heysel where obviously English clubs were banned from Europe. So to create a little bit of interest, a little cross-border interest, they proposed this Anglo-Scottish challenge. The two cup winners in England, Scotland, Coventry and St Mirren, were to play each other over 2 legs. The first leg was played at Highfield Road. It's not much fanfare. I think it was about 5,000 attended. Drew 1-1. David Phillips scored for us. And then they never bothered with the second leg. So there's a trophy there waiting to be claimed by one of the two teams. Nearly 40 years on. So we thought it'd be a great idea to try and get it put on, get the second leg put on up here and at St Mirren, really. Almost selfishly, it's almost like it'd be great to have a 20-minute drive to a game rather than 5.5 hours. So the motives were purely selfish initially, but I mean, we like the idea. I think it's growing some legs. We're getting it out on the socials and getting on CWR and esteemed podcasts such as yourselves, just to get the word out a bit really about it, and hopefully we can get some interest going, because I say there's a trophy there to be won. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure Cov would find a way to lose on penalties or something and not.
It's a really good idea, though.
Yeah, I think.
I can't believe with all the folklore around 87 that there's a bit that I'd not heard of before. That's completely news to me.
Yeah, it's bizarre. So, as I say, I think at the time they blamed like fixture congestion and all that kind of stuff for not bothering with the second leg. But it just seems bizarre that they had this thing there. And I think there was a previous incarnation of the competition that St Mirren have won it previously and stuff. So they had a bit of history with it. It was our first go at it, and it was never continued after that. So we really like the idea, and if the trophy's around, so be it.
And then I gather that your mum was in attendance at Norwich away last weekend. Is that right?
Yeah. So she's a resident of that area. So she lives in Lowestoft, so it's her most local game. So
Oh, that ruins it. I thought she was in Scotland with you.
do you want to start over and I'll make it a better story?
No. Oh, okay, that makes perfect sense then. Okay, yeah, right. So
she almost walked there. So yeah.
Oh,
but so that was a opportunity to get to a game. So and yeah, I don't think she'll be.
How did she find the first 90 minutes?
Excellent. Yeah. She said there's a lot of effing and blinding in the stands. So but I think she enjoyed the day out despite the result. And she's, as I say, she's a long-standing Cov fan, so she's fully aware of the misery that can entail at times. So, but yeah, I'll try and get her to some home games with us as well and stuff in the future.
So how do people get involved with the sports club?
You've kind of got to be ideally living in Scotland. That helps. We've got the various socials that one of our guys, Michael, runs really well. So yeah, all the usual places, X and Instagram and all that. So yeah, just give us a follow. We're always up to some good stuff, and any support people can give to this St Mirren idea, get it off the ground. That'd be superb. Thanks.
So it's CCFC Scottish or Scotland Supporters Club.
Sky Blue Army Scotland Supporters Club. Yeah. And you might have seen our club crest and stuff that Covcept kindly created for us, which is amazing, with the Highland Coo instead of the elephant and stuff. So
yeah, this really has to be seen. So I'll make sure that I retweet something on our Lamptey show feed and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know where to find if you are Scottish or Scottish. Well,
we haven't got many actual Scots as such, but what
if you consider yourself a Scottish ally?
Yeah. Everyone's welcome. I mean, we're still relatively thin on the ground. So we'll welcome all applications.
All right, beautiful. All right, well, fantastic. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks, Joe.
What I was going to ask was, who of the current squad are you very happy to let go in January?
Oh,
so Collins presumably starts us off there, unless there's anybody that vehemently disagrees with that.
No. Can we just take it as people who will let go, not think about replacements? Just think people who I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so we can let them go knowing or assuming that there are people coming in. I'm saying that people in the squad that are kind of beyond the point of repair in the same way that Collins is.
I want better than one of our defenders. So it's not going to happen. I don't really want... I don't like Lamptey at all, so I'd happily let us sell him. And if we've got a new person in to take that role of leader in defence, I'd be all right with that.
By the way, has anybody else heard that Lamptey is being courted by...
Yes, I have.
I've missed this. What?
By top 3 championship clubs.
Sheffield United. Yeah.
He's slow. He's not.
That England under 17 World Cup win.
Oh, I'll follow him forever.
Yeah.
£2 million apparently.
Yeah.
But again, look, I completely can buy the idea that you could see him in the same way as probably anybody in a team and go, yeah, you're serving a really good function. It's not us at the minute. So
no, we can do better.
Thank you.
Replacing
thank you very much.
you. Yeah.
And and genuinely hope that you go on and have a terrific career, because you seem like an absolutely terrific lad. But please get out of my Anybody else? I mean, I'm saying Brandon Thomas Asante right now. I know that he can't go because we only signed him in the summer. But, he's on a 4-year contract, and again, just seems like a lovely guy, but that just Does anyone remember Robin saying about like it's really important the sort of player we sign? And I was like, I actually don't think it is. I actually think you need to sign pricks. I think you need to sign pricks who are desperate to leave and join a bigger club the second that they can. That's who I want us to be at our club. He seems like the sort of guy that's like, I want to go forward with Coventry and be like, but you won't. You won't. And we won't while you're here. I also think that the chance is harder to score than people are giving it credit.
Yeah, it's not a gimmick, but he should at least get it on target. But
he should do better with it, but it's not like that's a tap in and an open goal. This guy is not my kind of guy.
Nice.
I have to say when it got to the 85th minute of the Portsmouth game and Lampard chose to bring on Allen for Sheaf, I turned off because I was like, oh yeah, that's the answer. That's it. Bring on Jamie fucking Allen. That'll cure it. For fuck's sake.
There's been a lot of that recently in terms of the substitutions where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, we go.
Oh, fantastic. So I would probably say goodbye to Jamie.
Yeah. The funny thing is, now at the moment, he's probably got more of a reason to be there than he previously had.
I disagree, Neil. I don't want him there anymore.
I don't want him there either. But I think in terms of if we lose another of the Cov boys, it's just, I don't know who we're left with.
But if we're not careful, he's going to end up being the manager sooner rather than later. Because there will be nobody left apart from him. Did anyone, on the subject of Jamie Allen, did anyone notice one of the most baffling football decisions I've seen in a long time against Norwich, where there was what ended up being a really close call for a Norwich goal that was originally a bit of a ball that had ricocheted in the box that he picked up, up with it, and then like drove towards his own goal.
Classic touch.
I've watched it a few times, and I can't, even within the realms of modern football being like, don't clear it, is I do wonder what he was hoping was gonna like.
It's quite bad.
It's a packed box.
Yeah,
he's like, I tell you what, they won't be expecting to be like. They won't be expecting it, but I think they're going to deal with it. Yeah, you kind of there's times where you look at Alan, and you kind of go, you are better than I thought you'd be, and then you go, oh God, no, but still, that's still not, it's still not the future.
I think Tavares needs to do something with life as well. He can't just hang around there for the rest of the time. That's not happening.
It's so obvious that he's like, they let Rodriguez come back in and just boot him straight out of the squad. Like he's obviously the seventh man on the bench, and he is better than like he's got a League One career possibly in him, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's got enough like sort of value in the bank as well. People know what he did in the semi-final. He came on, he had a bit of an impact. I think people might want to ride off that. But yeah, if both managers are now looking at their bench, desperate to change a match, and bringing on Jamie Allen and just letting you sit there, and he just sits there with a smile on his face. He seems so lovely. But I'm just like, mate, it's time to do something meaningful.
The more I think about it, what the squad needs is Paul. Just a big miserable bastard. Just to come in and shake up a load of and ruffle a load of feathers. That might be as big a signing as we could make this summer. If we could move a couple of players out in January. If we could move a couple of players out, get Paul in.
He'd love it.
Age, experience.
Yeah.
Knows the club.
Yeah.
Knows the club. Rob Holding.
Can I ask you, you all being men, do you get some kind of kick out of transfer dealings? Because it leaves me so cold, and yet all of my other friends are frothing about it. Tell me your thoughts. You don't care. Good. Okay, interesting. Dom, how do you feel about it?
It's a little interesting, I'll admit. It's sort of this and the Roman Empire really keeps me going.
You're a unique person, Dom.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. JC, how do you feel about it?
So I like it when it's something that's going to happen. So, like
Fantastic.
when it was right. Do you remember the morning that they were like,
They throw him through a bush.
Well, yeah, but like, so I don't know if you remember, but it all happened very quickly. Is proper journalists before anybody else on Twitter had said anything when Cov were going to sign a player for £8 million. That I liked because you're like, why?
Nice.
How? Like, why? Because we just spent £4 million on Van Eyck and Sim. Like, we just bought Sims for £4 million like 2 weeks before. The last thing you expected was just drop £8 million on a player that was meant to be a striker that you'd never heard of, an American striker playing in Turkey. That I'm like, now we're talking. Let's
More, please.
let's get this going. But the kind of the tittle tattle that's going nowhere that people are making up is boring in the extreme. But the Holden, I don't think is. I don't think that's tittle tattle. I think that's either. Well, I think it's it'll either break down or it's something that I believe is being talked about happening.
Well, yeah. I mean,
But in the sense
it will either happen or it won't.
But no, but in the sense that some transfer deals are just not happening at all. Someone has
I
just
see
made
what
up
you
the
mean.
fact that
Right.
my understanding is that if it's that Alan Nixon from the Sun, then it's because it's happening. But that whether he wants to come, I guess, is or whether Palace want to let him go. I imagine it's the sort of thing where they're going to say, well, hang on a second, let's talk on the 29th of January and see who we've got injured. What's dispiriting about the Holding signing is that, without wanting to sound like Mystic Meg, I can tell you exactly what will happen if he comes, is he will play 2.5 games. He'll look way above the level of the Championship for those 2.5 games, and then he'll get injured and we won't ever see him ever again. Because that's his entire career, isn't it? And I can't say with any great certainty that it's 2.5 games, but I don't know whether it was, I can't remember who it was, maybe one of yous or maybe CCFC Analysis again saying, this is not what we're meant to be doing, is it?
Yeah. But nothing anymore is what we were meant to be doing. We were meant to be sacking our manager and demolishing the team. So God knows what the next plan is. With a completely different ethos with a new manager. Could be anything, couldn't it?
What a team, what an ethos.
Yeah. How exciting.
All right. Final thoughts, prayers, wishes, dreams.
Is anybody in any way bothered about the FA Cup match?
No.
I
Why is
shall
it
be
at 6 o'clock?
Good question.
I shall be abstaining.
Yeah, me too.
I am going. I don't know why, but I will be there.
Fair play.
That's really crazy.
I know.
It is though, because I'll give £10 to anyone that could think of a team that would have been less interesting that we could have got.
I know.
We played them 4 times last
I
season.
know.
And
I
we
was
haven't-
there for 3 of them.
You're better than us. Definitely better than us.
No. I just have
don't
less
know.
to do.
Fair play.
Although, to be fair, I bought a West Brom ticket and booked a train. And on the afternoon of it, thought, nah, you're all right. And it's one of the it's one of the best decisions I've made all season. I was absolutely thrilled when we lost. I was like, I knew it. I made the right choice because it was freezing. And we never win at West Brom.
No. And it was a loss as well. Like, there just was...
Yeah, waste of time.
It was just,
That should have been my moment. Yeah.
It's great not going to games.
Oh my God, it's so good. Honestly, the Portsmouth game, I was like, thank fuck I can just turn this off.
Lovely just to be able to not be at
Wonderful. Just don't go, guys. It's shit.
That's the message we were here to promote.
Right, okay.
On that note.
Well, it feels like that's the right time to leave. Right, okay. Thank you very much then, Neil.
Thank you.
Thank you, Imogen.
Godspeed.
Thank you, Dom.
Cheers, goodbye.
And thank you, listener. Bye.